what Trump's going to do is declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory, but that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted mail, and so they're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to declare himself a winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm. We're going to have Antifa crazy, the media crazy, the courts are crazy, and Trump's going to be sitting there mocking, tweeting shit out. You lose. I'm the winner. I'm the king. And he'll be all over. He'll be going, where's Hunter? Is Hunter on a crack pipe? I mean, no, he'll be, because then it doesn't matter. Remember, here's the thing. After that, Trump never has to go to a voter again. He's going to fire Ray, the FBI director. He's going to say, fuck you. How about that? Because he's never going to, he's done his last election. Oh, he's going to be off the chain. He's going to be crazy. Also, if Trump is losing by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be even crazier. No, because he's going to sit right there and say they stole it. I'm directing the Attorney General to shut down all ballot places in all 50 states. It's going to be no. He's not going out easy. If Biden's winning, Trump is going to do some crazy shit.
Now, Steve Bannon is a dangerous character in American politics. He was working, his career was in Goldman Sachs as an executive at Goldman Sachs. And he got involved in politics around 2008 when we had the real estate collapse around 2008. He started joining protests with the Tea Party, and they were attacking Obama because he feels like welfare is handing out too much with Obamacare. You got to understand, the Tea Party was all about cracking down on social programs, healthcare programs for people that are minorities. In other words, suburban white people didn't want to pay for healthcare, welfare for minorities. They feel like this country was being overtaxed by the middle class to support affordable healthcare or universal healthcare for minorities. And minority and anyway, so Steve Bannon came to rise up while Trump was saying about Obama wasn't a real president because his father was born in Kenya, so he must have been born in Kenya and he doesn't belong in America as a president, that he should show Trump his birth certificate. So it was a bigoted movement towards black people and welfare for black peoples, welfare, health care for black peoples. So that's how Steve Bannon got involved into politics. It was to ban Obamacare. And so once Trump made it into the White House in 2016, Steve Bannon was his White House strategic advisor. And so Steve Bannon was advising Trump to force Europe to dissolve their currencies, the euro currency, and to force more European nations to annex themselves from the Union. That's what Steve Bannon believes. And why he believes it? Because Steve Bannon believes that people like George Soros and the Rothschilds and the Morgans, that they're controlling the European Union through Davos. And that through Davos, the Eurozone is controlling the Federal Reserve. And so Steve Bannon believes that the elites, as he calls it, is the money exchangers, the evil money exchangers. As sick as it sounds, he believes that the middle class in America is being subverted by people like George Soros, the elites, and the Morgans and the Rothschilds, and that is bearing unfair taxation on middle class Americans, which is white suburban neighborhoods. And so Steve Bannon wanted to spread fascism not only in America but also in Europe. He was defrauding the Build the Wall Foundation, and he was using that money to wine and dine and have trips in Europe, mainly in Italy and France, to prop up presidential candidates in those countries to run and win office as presidents of fascism, alt-rights, that Steve Bannon wants them to dissolve from the Union. Steve Bannon wants to dissolve and break up the European Union. He believes that the money exchangers are the ones that controlling the world. Same demented mentality that Hitler had under reparations. So Steve Bannon is obsessed with that type of crusade, that type of revolution. That's why he's behind Trump. That's why he's always talking about the economy. He's always talking about how Davos is messing up the world order. How Davos, in regards, what he's trying to say is that the European Union is being controlled by evil money exchangers, and that somehow they need to be stopped by a global revolution. That's how Steve Bannon sees it. He sees that America should break into a civil war, and that the Federal Reserve should be abolished, and he believes that the Eurozone should get dissolved. Steve Bannon was the one that indoctrinated Trump into the Brexit deal with Farage. He was one of the architects of Build the Wall, supposedly, because it's the xenophobia towards brown migrants coming to North America. But Steve Bannon, like I said, he's on the trip of at least the way he perceives it is like he sees that the woes of America is the liberal elites that happens to be Jewish rich people that are in the business of banking. And you can understand, Steve Bannon in Goldman Sachs, he was trying to study these Jekyll Islands, how the Federal Reserve got created. So Steve Bannon believes that the world is being controlled by rich Jewish people, and that somehow the only way that he can get rid of them, Steve Bannon, is by starting an American Civil War. That the conservative alt-rights take control of the republic, and they ban these money exchangers from controlling the Federal Reserve. That's why he thinks he's demented. He's kind of like Hitler, arguing about reparations. So it falls more into the evangelical crusade of white Americans fighting against this. Steve Bannon is more lenient towards the alt-right, more extreme. That's why Jared and Ivanka didn't get along with him, because they can sense his type of politics and they don't like it. Jared and Ivanka don't like his type of politics. But Trump puts up with Steve Bannon. Trump he likes powering around with Steve Bannon. To this day, they're best friends, you know? So the FBI, when they were investigating Steve Bannon going to Europe, it was because it's a threat. Steve Bannon is a threat not only to the American election systems, and Steve Bannon is directly in communications with Roger Stone, and they still network through Mar-a-Lago with Trump. Steve Bannon does. So, because you got to understand, Trump's base has been riled up by Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon sees himself as a revolutionist within the Trump movement. And so Steve Bannon influences Trump's base a lot, especially around 2020 elections, when Giuliani was coming to the Four Seasons landscaping company to try to steal the Pennsylvania elections through subverting African Americans in Philadelphia. Because you gotta understand, Philadelphia is heavily populated by Latinos and African Americans. And so Giuliani was trying to do the same thing in Georgia, in those districts that are heavily populated by African Americans. Because the only way they could figure to flip 7 million votes is to argue foul play in those districts that happen to be minority votes, to wipe the minority votes off the tally. And like that, Giuliani was strategizing that can conserve rural America and Pennsylvania, white rural America neighborhoods and districts throughout Pennsylvania. But in order for him to do that, he had to go to Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is heavily populated by Africans and Latinos. And so that Giuliani's in trouble in Georgia for doing that, but he should be tried also in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for doing the same thing at the Four Seasons. But yes, the FBI has been following Steve Bannon real close, because like I said, Steve Bannon is a demented alt-right type of character, that he believes that he's on a crusade to fight against the Jewish money exchangers, that he calls liberals, that are controlling Davos, meaning controlling the European Union. And so Steve Bannon is not only a threat to American politics, but he's a threat to the European Union. He's a demented alt-right character. And that's why he's being investigated. Because not only is he colluding with Trump, not only was he colluding with Trump in 2020 to steal the elections for 2020, but also he's going to Europe using the Build the Wall Foundation, is a charity of his that he started to build a southern border wall, but he's using that money to defraud it, the people that donate to that, to defraud it and take it to Europe, and then wine and dine alt-right fascist leaders that are willing to follow Trump off the deep edge and to annex themselves off the Union, the European Union, and to dissolve the Eurozone currencies. That's what Steve Bannon's been doing in Europe. And so not only were they plotting, him and Trump, to steal the election for 2020, but they're plotting to do it for 2024. That's why I want to phase in forensic voting, to impede any scoundrel like Steve Bannon or Trump from ever undermining democracy in any republic, whether it be in America or in the European Union. People like Steve Bannon and Donald Trump believe in insurrections. They believe in imposing themselves on the republic. You can hear Trump Jr. and CPAC saying this is not the Republican Party no more. This is the Trump Party. In other words, his grandeur, Trump's grandeur, sees himself like grander than the Republicans. Like it belongs to him. Like the Republican Party belongs to him. Lock and key. This is not the Republican Party no more. This is the Trump Party. That's what Trump Jr. says. That's what Eric Jr. says about their father. But at the end of the day, this is not normal politics in America. It doesn't have no sense of normality. And like I said, Steve Bannon and Giuliani and eventually Trump should be tried in those swing states for trying to overturn a free and fair election. And for me, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump is not my king. And y'all don't reign over us. Not in Philadelphia and not in any union of this country.